There are lots of principals here and assistant principals. And what made me think about jumping out of the principal role was about impact. And I actually said out of my mouth, I think the beginning of my last year of being a principal, I have got to get in the room with people who make policy. But I really would love to hear your thinking about that decision around impact. Did you decide to forego expansion and choose the road for training and development?
Like a brick and mortar approach was not going to work. I mean, that's nice, but that's still islands of success. And it took us years to get the 6 schools that we did up and running. We said, we'll never catch up this way. You got to show people how to do this. You can't say, it's just one school at a time, wherever it happens to be. And it's funny, Dennis, I was in a meeting with Jeff Canada in his office once, and he said, we're saving our kids by the hundreds, but losing them by the thousands. And that stuck with me. I said, if you're trying to really win the war, you have a different strategy, right? And so that, I think, fear is the reason why we decided not to do this and not to just do a brick and mortar, right? I mean, and listen, we got invited by people everywhere. The government of South Africa called me in for a meeting at the consulate to talk about opening Eagle Academy as the brother school to the all-girls school that Oprah Winfrey had opened. The government of Bermuda, check this out. The government of Bermuda arranged for a meeting with me and my team to say, would you please come here to open one? Because our boys are out of control. But I mean, boys, we have to show people how to do this. So I'm actually engaged right now. I got a meeting tomorrow with the chancellor around a proposal that I put forth to her to say, I want to train up dozens of schools starting this summer, all into the next few years. We have the capacity. We need the resources. You give me the resources, we can make sure lots of schools start to get this level of exposure. Because if you can lift your boys, you can lift your whole school.
We knew, right, the power behind coming together and networking and reaching out and reaching down and pulling one another up and wrapping ourselves around one another was sort of like a scary conversation 17 years ago, right? The rest of the world, imagine, in their minds, imagine what would happen if that was happening. And, I just was thinking back to when we went around the room and we was like, by way of David, by way of Bernard, and you guys had this little private competition to see how many more of you got in the room. But I want to say I am so proud of what you both have accomplished through those underground meetings, because so many of us found the strength, we found the motivation, we found the support, and we found the knowledge that we needed in order to be successful. And not only be successful, but remember what it means to always bring each other up. So I want to personally thank you for that. And it's something that I've carried with me throughout everything that I do. And I'm thinking about, we were underground and now we're above ground.
Right.
And how much, what has changed and what hasn't changed.
So my question, you mentioned about cultural responsive teaching, and that is a focus for our school next year. And so I was hoping that you could share some of your awesome resources that you think are fantastic, that we could utilize.
Well, first of all, we do a training every summer that I would encourage you to join. Dennis, I will get you, just remind me, right? I'll get you the information about the Eagle Institute, which kicks off, and we do it'll be over the course of 2 to 3 days. And we do that every summer. We usually do it in person, but it'll be virtual. But you would receive a ton of materials around not only cultural competency, but how do you get parents deeply involved in your school? That's something that we do a really good job with. How do you, what is that academic program that works best for engaging young men, right? Our college programming that was mentioned earlier. How do you create extended day programs that have real impact? And specifically, I'm talking about for boys, but they work for everybody. But we do it through the lens of what's happening with the boys, right? Ritual, ceremony, tradition. So when I talked about Invictus, from the time our young men come to Eagle Academy in the 6th grade, they recite that poem every single day at town hall. So town hall is a cultural competence initiative. Every day before our young men even step foot into class, they gather together as an entire school. How young men are affirmed in their space is important. Can you measure that on a test? No, but I'm here to tell you it's important.
What would be the best piece of advice that you can give me and other aspiring leaders in this day and age?
A couple of things. One, to always be committed to excellence, not just to be in the seat. Being in the seat that's a good thing. I mean, a lot of people don't get to around being a school leader, right? I mean, people have entrusted the lives of their children to you. That's an awesome responsibility. Take it very seriously and give it everything that you've got. And when you reach a point where you think you can't give it everything you got, you should really be earnest about doing something else. And I would also tell you, and this is something that most school folks won't tell you, or most programs that prepare everybody, recognize that you are more than just an instructional leader. I never believed that. That's a newer thing that has happened over the last 10 years. You are a community leader. You are a leader from folks outside the door who impact your kids every day.
What are some of those things, David, that has really gotten you to the point where you feel like, you know, what I'm doing with the Eagle Foundation is good, but I need to do more? What are some of those things that we can talk about?
The way we get the things that we need on behalf of Black and brown children is by exerting a level of political power. For far too long, educators have kind of done our work within the four walls of a school. Like, we talk to each other, like what you all are doing, which is important. The energy and the agenda that emerges from groups like this has to escalate up to political power, to making something happen, to changing policy, and it's having a real policy agenda. That's what BU is committed to trying to do. So yes, we want to be together. We want to network. We want to laugh and joke. We want to toast each other. We want to have a good time. We've always done that. We're going to continue to do that. But what we're recognizing now is this. I'll give you an example. I'm pushing right now with a whole host of folks, including some key folks from BU, to get the teaching of Black history mandated K-12 throughout our school system. Our children don't know who they are. Many of our teachers and adults don't know who they are. They've gone through a school system as well, where the most you learned was 1 week about Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. I'm talking about our children need to be exposed to our history. They are blown away. They don't even know practically that y'all even exist. Hear what I'm saying? They know there are Black educators out there, but Black educators organized with an agenda, that's brand new to them. So these handful of brothers and sisters who are showing up in these squares with the Speaker of the City Council, with the Black caucus of the City Council, you know what I'm finding? We're giving the Black members of the City Council permission to be bold and be Black for real. Many of them have stood down and not stepped out in the way that they need to because they don't even think they got any back. That's what Shango Blake is doing. He's like, we'll bring 1,000 brothers and sisters from this education space to let you know. So all of us talking amongst ourselves only gets us so far. That's the space that I'm at now. I want to see culturally responsive teacher training. Every teacher, before they ever step foot into our classrooms, should get a level of cultural competency training that's built into the system, and before they can even step foot into our schools. And then they should get a level of training throughout their careers. And that's everybody. Because don't think just because you're Black, you understand what this is either. Black children need to see themselves in the places and spaces. I curated recently a book collection with Scholastic called Rising Voices, a 300 book collection where Black and brown boys are the protagonists in every book. It has never happened before.